Okay. So cash. Everybody loves cash, I understand? Yes. Okay. How much cash do you want? How much cash is enough? If you were to quantify that, how much cash would you need? Anybody has an answer? Do you have a number in mind when you say बहुत पैसा चाहिए? कितना चाहिए? You have a GPA here? Grade point average? What's the grading scale? 10, 5, 4, 10. Do you have a number in mind? मुझे इतना GPA चाहिए? है सबके माइंड में एक नंबर कि नहीं है? किसी का 7 होगा, किसी का 6 होगा, किसी का 8 होगा, किसी का 9 होगा, किसी का 10 होगा, बट है सबके माइंड में नंबर? उसके लिए नंबर है? नहीं डिसाइड करते हम लोग, नहीं प्लान करते। एनपीवी कैलकुलेशन पढ़ते हैं, खुद का एनपीवी नहीं करते। एनपीवी पता है? नेट प्रेजेंट वैल्यू। So, see, when we talk about these things, we don't actually know what we're talking about. We say, I want to be happy, I want to be successful, I want to have money. But we don't define these things. What does success mean to you? You don't jot it down. Some of you have had a chance to flip through those papers. We'll go through that later. But what's important is to define these things. What they mean for you. What does cash mean for you? What does happiness mean for you? It means different things to different people. That's why no point cheating from the other neighbor. There's a reason why I asked you to swap. Because probably you are sitting with people who you are comfortable with. I want you to make new friends. You will do an exercise, then you will read out to your neighbor. There will be some new insights that will come out of it. So, with that, how much cash do you need? Anybody brave enough? Give me a number. If there was a lottery ticket right now, what number should that be? Yeah? That's your fee, right? Okay, I'll get you a microphone. You're not audible.
So that's the amount that I need for my new camera kit.
So camera is your passion. 8 lakh?
36,000.
36,000. Are you a student here?
Yes, sir.
Any reason why you're doing MBA?
So probably because as a photographer, I've been learning a lot of things, but then in order to make money out of it or use those skills properly, I want to do an MBA and learn.
How is your MBA going to help you do photography?
So it won't help me do photography. Obviously, it would help me enhance my skills when I present myself as a photographer in the market and the industry.
Who is the highest paid photographer in this country?
So highest paid, there's no such number as of now. But then when it comes to Bollywood, it's Dabur Ratnani. Right? When it comes to commercials, it's Munish Khanna, Rahul Datta. And when it comes to wildlife or something, it's So there's some one photographer, I'm not remembering his name. He's some South Indian.
Does any of them have an MBA?
No, sir.
So why do you need an MBA?
So that's their mindset, and this is my mindset. So I'm not comparing them.
No. I'm trying to understand your mindset.
Yeah, that's what
These people I have not even heard the name of. So why do you need an MBA?
So my mindset.
Because you have spent 10 lakh rupees on that MBA, which could have been spent on the camera.
I did.
That's your opportunity cost. And 2 years which you probably ended up studying here.
So that's what I'm saying. In order to do a business, in order to do a business, any business, those people are photographers who have been doing photography for now 30 years for now. And then MBA did not exist, or PGDM did not exist.
MBA existed for a long time, my
PGDM,
friend.
I'm so sorry, sir.
PGDM also existed.
30 years back, sir.
30 years back it did exist.
So, sir, I did not have.
Maybe not in Jaipur, yeah. This is like 25 years ago. They were MBAs.
Probably I did not have an idea about that. So basically, I don't know. It's like that's my perception that if I do an MBA, I would learn some skills, some managerial skills, or some skills that would help me in earning more and using my funds properly, basically.
What did you do before your MBA?
So mass communication.
Okay. Wasn't that a better place where you could have used your photography skills?
So I learned photography there only, and did my advertisement PR from there. Basically, my specialization was in advertisement PR, and over here I'm doing marketing. So with marketing, I would get into advertisements and those sort of.
You're in a very fortunate position. Because there are not many photographers with an MBA. You realize that?
Yes, sir.
That's the point I was driving. So MBA does teach you some skills. It does. You have probably learned Kotler's book in your marketing. It teaches you those 4P, 5C. You will have the analytical skill to figure out what is it that differentiates you from other photographers out there. Another thing will happen, which you don't realize right now, but in 5 years you will. All these guys who sit around here, they will not remember your GPA. They will not even remember the projects you did with them. They will remember only one thing about you. What is that? Yes. And when they need a person to cover their events, who do you think they will come to?
I'm not sure about that.
You're not sure about that? Maybe you should convince them to come to you.
So my work would do that, I believe.
Your work needs marketing.
That's what I'm saying.
These are your best marketeers. These guys know you in person. These 200 people are your brand ambassadors. If you can't convince them that your work is best in class, you won't be able to convince me.
It will take some time for me to realize that my work is best in class. So before I convince them, I need to convince them.
It's good to have confidence in your work, which is commendable. It's also good to realize that there are two things which make you something. People and skills. MBA is as much about people as about skills. That's why I said I swapped you guys for a reason, because I want you to know people that you don't know. So it's important. Yes, that 8 lakh dream that you have, you will be able to reach there in 1 year. With the education that Jaipuria provides you, you'll get a decent job. Probably even in that job, people will know you as the guy who does marketing for Coke and takes excellent pictures. That's your forte. Nobody can take it away from you. You will get a better camera. What might though happen sometime or somewhere in your journey, you might decide that camera is not worth it. It's too risky, too Markovian, too path dependent. I want to go through a set path. I am a manager in this marketing company, next year I will become regional manager, so on and so forth. That's the biggest risk to your camera. Do you agree? Okay.
The probable reason is that if I do a job in any of those companies, I'd rather get those companies marketing, campaigns with a friend of mine who works with me, and we'll do that those marketing campaigns for that company together. Yeah.
What's your dream job?
Probably to design campaigns for any of those companies, design campaigns, marketing campaigns. Basically.
You know,
that position, I don't know the job position exactly.
I understand. I'm so glad that I'm speaking to you. I was speaking the same talk in IIM Bangalore 1 week back. Tomorrow I might, I'm speaking tomorrow to IIM Lucknow kids. You're the first student who has clarity of where he's going. In fact, a lot of people have no clarity why they are in the program. Probably because their parents paid for it. Or probably because they thought if I do this, I'll get a better salary. That's the only motivation.
So probably because I paid for this program, so that's what.
Yeah, that makes a difference. When you pay attention. That happens. When you pay for something, you start paying attention. The more you pay, the more attention you will pay. So I'm so glad that I met you.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm very sure that you will become a photographer that I would one day be asking to take photograph of me, and you will say, oh, my dates are busy, call me in 1 year's time. Yeah. So anyways, that cash question, a lot of you, when I do this cash talk, there are few things I talk about. CA stands for career, S for salary, and H for happiness. Now, For a lot of you, that salary question is important. Whether you say it out loud or you don't say it out loud, it's important. And it's important for many reasons. You have a loan to pay, right? You probably have parents who have expectations out of you. You probably are married, have kids. Money is important, salary is important. I'm not saying it is not. And I'll tell you what goes into salary of freshly minted MBAs. Now, the beauty about MBA is that it teaches you to be CEOs. That's what they teach you about, right? Strategy, marketing, finance. But most often, when you start in an entry-level job, it's a job for janitor. Corporate janitor, that's what I call it. You start very low, and then you climb up the ranks. MBA teaches you everything to be a CEO, actually. But most of us don't start there. So most of us start very junior in our career. Heads down, climb up the ladder. Anyways, rich or broke? How many of you think money is the definition of rich or broke? Raise your hands if you think money decides whether you're rich or broke. Okay. Only 1% in the room thinks that money decides whether you're rich or broke. Rest of you? Because if you don't think money is what makes you rich or broke, I'm going to ask you, what do you think makes you rich or broke? It's probably easier for you to raise your hands than answer that question. So your chances now. Do you think money decides if you're rich or broke? Okay. Who said no? Raise your hands. Okay. Can one of you answer why it doesn't? And what is it that, okay, I'll get a microphone for you.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
Sir, rich doesn't mean that it is only something related to cash. Rich, it can be in terms of happiness also.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, someone can be happy without cash also.
Mm-hmm.
He's rich in happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, in terms, if we talk also about health, someone is good at health. He's very healthy. He's very strong. So he's rich in strength. And sir, so this is how I think that money is something which is not related with rich or broke.
Very good answer, actually. You can take it from here now, actually.
Yes, sir.
You can take it from here now. I don't need to speak. Yeah. So, rich or poor is actually not money. What is it then? Yeah, because we define rich or poor in terms of money. Yeah, money is important. We have established that. Money is the scale of accounting, right? That's how you account for wealth or lack thereof. But what is more important is your mindset. Doesn't matter how much you start with. What matters is where you're headed with that. And what defines where you're headed is your mindset. It's not how much money you have in your pocket. How many of you will call Malia rich? How many of you will call him poor? Raise your hand if you call Malia poor. That guy is so poor that he can't come back to the country where he was born. He has sacrificed his freedom for that monetary gain that he has made. Maybe not deliberately, things happen. But for whatever it is, I'm pretty certain none of you would want to be Malias or in Malia's shoes right now. So there is more to it than money. But anyways, we are in an MBA school. Can't get out of this question. At the end of the day, your pay package matters. You will be competing knowingly, unknowingly, consciously, subconsciously with your peers for that paycheck, for that highest paying job, for that day zero, day one job, whatever you call it here. Right? Many of you will have parents who will want to see you as the highest paid person from Jaipur. So my next few slides will talk about what will be my first salary, what determines that. And why this is important, because unless you understand this, you will not understand what is in the mindset of recruiters. How do they recruit you? So first thing, modern portfolio theory. How many of you know that? How many of you have heard of that? None of you have heard of that. Seriously. MBA second year students, you haven't heard of modern portfolio theory. How many finance graduates? Finance majors? You haven't heard of modern portfolio theory? Really? That's a year one course. You should have all done it, I would imagine. Shall I go through the maths? Looks very interesting. I can put half of you to sleep by going through that math. Or shall I tell you in English what it means? Maths. I'll leave the math to your faculty. I'll explain you what it means in English. What that means in English is there are asset classes such as equities, bonds, cryptocurrency, which came after I graduated from IIM. It was not there when I was around. Commodities. And you have been given a bag of money. So you can allocate this bag of money into these things, into equities, into bonds, into commodities, into cash. And your goal is to maximize the return. And what modern portfolio theory tells you is majority of your return comes from how you allocate these resources. Very little comes from what is called stock selection. You know that. You're nodding your head. Yeah, you remember. Yeah. Yeah, I know when you do MBA there is amnesia, so dhire dhire yaad aane lagti hai. You have been taught this. Okay, you're learning this. Yeah, okay. Good. So what it says is majority of your returns comes from where you allocate the assets. Very little will come from stock selection. There is an entire math on this. There have been papers written on this. There have been note prizes given on this. So, what does that mean to MBA graduates? So you're talking about assets. What's the most important asset that you have? Yes, time. What else? Brain, yeah. What else? Health. What else? Skills. What else?
Ability to take risk.
Ability to take risk, yes. What else? Okay. If you look at everything you spoke, the most important asset is you. Right? Whether it's your health, it's your ability to take risk, it's your skill sets, it's you. How many of you think your most important asset is your rich uncle? Can be. But actually it's you. And in MBA world what that means is, if you were to maximize your day one salary, everything we are doing here is a thought experiment which has practical implications, and we are doing this with the point of view of maximizing your year one salary, your MBA salary when you graduate. So if you want to get the highest paid job from the campus, the first thing you need to do is understand modern portfolio theory and then understand how that applies to you. So you are the most important asset. Think of yourself as the money bag that's waiting to be invested. Where can you invest yourself? You can invest yourself in a marketing company. You can invest yourself in finance. You can invest yourself in HR. You can invest yourself in operations. These are the operations, these are the segments that you can invest yourself into. These are asset classes. Like I spoke about equities, bonds, commodities, cash. So think of marketing, think of HR, think of finance as those asset classes. Everybody with me so far? Okay. I also said majority of return comes from where you allocate yourself. So if you allocate yourself in HR versus if you allocate yourself in finance versus if you allocate yourself in marketing, do you think the returns are same? Do you think it's same? It's different. And the return we are talking about right now is salary. So what happens is different asset classes pay you differently. Okay? Finance will pay you something, marketing will pay you something, HR will pay you something. These are different asset classes. Depending on where you allocate yourself, you'll get different salary. That's the return that you get when you allocate yourself. And what you do is, you offer your services in return of that money. So if you want to maximize your day one salary, you need to pick up the asset class that pays the most. I'm not sure what is in fashion these days, but whatever that is. Right? You need to pick up that. You can be the best marketing person. Or you could be the best teacher. But you will only get the average salary that that industry pays, at least at the beginning. You could be the worst banker, but you will get the average banking salary that that industry pays in the beginning. Starting points may be different, right? A banking salary and a teacher's salary may be different. But we're not talking about what it is in the long run. We're talking about what it is at day one. On day one, you all agree, right? Different industries pay different salaries, right? You will get average salary. Now I said stock picking is not important. What did I mean by that? Let's say you take a career in marketing. There are two rivals. What are the two rivals in marketing? Two famous companies in marketing. Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Okay, let's pick up that example. Or P&G and Unilever, right? Let's pick Pepsi and Coca-Cola. How many of you think whether you pick Coca-Cola or whether you pick Pepsi, your salary is going to be drastically different? Will it be different? Yes, there will be some differences here and there. Delta would be different. But would it be statistically significant? That is what is meant by stock picking. Think of the industry that you want to go into. Don't bother about the stock that you want to pick. Don't bother about whether it's a P&G or it's a Unilever. The difference is negligible. But do you think if you go to a P&G, which is a famous bank these days that hires from here? 1%. HDFC. Do you think what HDFC pays you and what Coca-Cola pays you is going to be same? Will it be different? Why? Industries are different. But what HDFC pays you and what ICICI pays you would largely be in the same zip code, in the same ballpark figure. So what have we learned so far? What we have learned is, if you want to maximize your salary, pick up the industry that pays you the most. We're just maximizing salary right now. We'll come to the point why we should not be doing it. But for now, let's maximize salary. This is the constraint exercise you have been given. You need to maximize your salary in Jaipuria campus. That's the exercise we're solving for. This slide is clear? Who is your finance professor? Neeraj? One of you please stand up and tell the name. I'll get your microphone.
Professor Dheeraj
Mishra.
Professor Susma Shrani, Professor Rashmi Chaudhary, and Professor Hemendra Gupta.
Okay.
Professor Reena Agarwal.
Okay. So we'll ask your professors to go through the math. I've given you the broad helicopter view of what it is. Okay? So if any of you doesn't know how that is derived, we'll ask your professors to go through it. Okay? What's happening here? Can somebody explain? Just the picture, not what's written on the top. Does anybody recognize that picture? Okay, what is happening? Why is it sinking? Okay, and what's written in that caption? In that call out? What is it written? If we are sinking, why are we hundreds of feet up in the air? Because of size. Okay, I'll ask you more closely. What happens if you're here? What do you see? You think you're on the top of the sky, right? You think you're flying high. Now that's something which happens when you're choosing industries as well. You guys know what junk bond is? Junk bond. Nobody has heard of junk bonds. You know what a coupon is? A bond pays coupon? Okay. A junk bond is a bond which is not credit worthy, which means that the probability of that bond defaulting, that means not paying back your principal, is high. Such a bond will pay you higher coupon. Did you understand what I said? Some finance jargon. Because of the risk factor. So what happens is, let me explain. Let's say if Government of India issues a bond, it pays you interest of 7%. Let's pick up another company, Reliance. Do you think Reliance will pay higher or lower? Higher? Higher coupon or lower coupon? Even if Reliance is doing well, it can't be doing better than your government, right? Your government can print money, right? Reliance can't. But anyways, what happens is, give me some risky company that is in fashion these days. Kingfisher, okay. Kingfisher issues you a bond, okay? Kingfisher issues you a bond. 1,000 rupee bond. How much interest would you want so that you take that Kingfisher bond? Is the question clear? Let's make it 100. It's easier to think those in those 100 terms. Kingfisher issues you a bond of 100 rupee. The way bond works is, let's say it's a 5-year bond. Every year you will get some coupon. And then at the end of it, you will get your 100 back. Okay? So let's say Government of India is doing it. And they give you 7%. That means every year you get 7 rupee. And at the end of it, at the end of 5 years, you get your 100 back. Now I am Kingfisher. I am issuing you the same bond, 100 rupee bond. How much do you think I should pay you as interest every year so that you take that bond? More or less? How much more? How much would you want me to pay you as interest so that you can take that? So that that Kingfisher bond becomes palatable to you? 15? Who said 15? 20%? Anybody wants higher than that? How much do you want? 35%. Anybody wants higher than that? Lower? Less than 7%? Less than 15? 35%? You will take it at 35? Your money might never come back. You're fine with that risk. Your 100 might never come back. Okay. So this is what happens in bonds. People issue you bonds, they give you interest. The more risky you are, the more interest you have to give. Because I need to make that deal sweet for you. So if I have to make it sweet for you, the only way I can do is by giving you more coupon. What's the coupon you get in your work life? What is it called? Salary. Exactly. The coupon which you get in your work life is called salary. So if I were an industry which is sinking, one way of fooling you into taking that job is by giving you more salary. Quite ironic, right? दूसरी कंपनी ज्यादा पैसे कैसे पे कर सकती है? करना पड़ता है, otherwise you will not come. I make you the general manager of Kodak India. You will not come because you know Kodak is. But if I give you more money, you will come. Why? Because we fail to do that NPV calculation. Oftentimes we maximize our first month's salary. We fail to do the NPV calculation for our lives. So what happens is, if industry is sinking, it will and it does pay you more, just so that you can come. Startups don't pay you that much. You know why? There are multiple of reasons, but one of the reasons is because, they don't have money to begin with, so they pay you in equity. But the idea here is that if something is risky, in order, all else being equal, right? In order to attract you, they have to pay you more coupon, and that coupon is called salary. So if you want to maximize your salary at the end of MBA, do one thing. Pick up a company that's sinking, or an industry that's sinking. There are many like that. Travel industry. Finance industry maybe, because it's ripe for disruption. Fintech is coming in big way. I think finance still does, at least when I was doing my MBA at IIM, it used to pay the highest. Maybe still is true. But how long will it pay that highest? What's the NPV? And by the way, do you guys realize what is the principle that you invest in a company? It's your time and your skills. So if you spend 5 years learning a skill that has no value at the end of 5 years, that's your principle gone. Everybody with me? Did you understand what I just said? The 5 years that you spend at a company is your principle. And the skills you take from that is your investment. If you invest yourself in a wrong place, such that your job becomes obsolete, then you are at the wrong place. You will have to reset the clock back to zero, or maybe to negative, because you're now older, nobody wants to hire you. Anybody tried switching jobs from marketing to finance, or finance to marketing, or operations to HR? How easy is it? Is it easy? Why is it not easy? People are not willing to take risk on you. It's very hard to convince people. People always go for shortcuts. They will always look at what you have done in the past and only give you that job. If your entire industry is sinking, there are no jobs in that industry. You're done. Next. Sharpe ratio. Do you know what Sharpe ratio is? Who has heard about Sharpe ratio? Okay. Can you explain that? Okay, I'll get you a microphone.
Sharpe ratio is return on portfolio minus risk-free rate upon standard deviation of the portfolio. It basically tells that how much risk you take for the rupee one of that you have invested in a portfolio.
Okay. Yeah, it's exactly that. Can we have a round of applause? He remembers what's taught now. Most of us don't. So Sharpe ratio basically in simple English says, for every additional risk you take, you get extra return. Is it clear? So when you take additional risk, you get extra return. That's what it says. Now what does that mean for MBAs? How many of you have taken flights? Raise your hand. Okay, can we have higher, or you're like already down on energy? Okay, how many of you have not taken flights? Okay, fair enough. Now, whether you've taken flight or whether you've not taken flight, imagine this. You are in a flight, there is a flight attendant, and there is a pilot. Who do you think is taking more risk? Pilot? Attendant? Okay. Who is taking more risk? You are obviously taking risk. But we're talking about the pilot and the flight attendant. How many of you think pilot is taking more risk? How many of you think flight attendant is taking more risk? Okay. Somebody will have to enlighten me why flight attendant is taking more risk, because I fail to understand that. So you will explain that. Okay. No, actually you have explained too much today. So I will ask somebody else to explain. You will explain.
He doesn't have the...
Good morning.
Good morning.
He doesn't even have a steering in his hand. So he's taking more of a risk. Like pilot has the steering in his own hands, he can control it and he can eject and then whatever he can do. But the flight attendant is just like he could jump off the plane or then stay on the plane.
Okay, that's a very good way of putting it. I never thought it from that angle, but you're right. So essentially what he's saying is that the flight attendant is not in control. The pilot is in control. Okay? You're on the right track. What I meant to ask you is, as a profession, who is taking more risk? Pilot, right? Why? Because not only the pilot's own life, not only his or her own life, but life of 300 other passengers is dependent on that pilot. He is taking more risk in his job, or her job. Flight attendant is flying the same plane, traveling the same destination. But yet pilot is taking more risk, because one mistake from the pilot, you will not see the light next day. So in every industry, you will have jobs that are so dependent on you that one mistake from you can ruin the company. There are many jobs like that. So you will get paid more for taking that responsibility. And the other name of responsibility is risk. If you take that extra risk, that industry will pay you more. Within each industry you have such jobs. Like, again, I'm assuming all skills are equal, right? We are all assuming you're all MBA students, you're all equal. I'm not talking about skill gap here. I'm assuming everybody is equal. So if you have the choice, if you took a flight attendant role versus a pilot's role, you will get paid more. You might be the worst pilot, you might crash the plane next day. That doesn't matter. But initially, you will get paid more because you are entrusted with more risk. You are trusted with more responsibility. Hence, you will be paid more. So let me summarize. First, we choose an industry. We decided which industry to choose. We are trying to maximize salary, so we understood that if we take an industry that's sinking, probably will pay me more on day one. And within each industry, sinking or not sinking, you have some jobs that pay you more because you need to take more risk. Generally speaking, these jobs tend to be what is called revenue generating jobs. Sales jobs tend to be more risky. It's assumed. I'm not sure if it's the case. Sales people get paid higher. That's generally the case. Apple is sitting on $1 billion cash. Somebody needs to do accounting for that. But is accounting the main business of Apple? What is the main business? Selling phones. The highest paid guy in Apple will always be an engineer. Or somebody who grows up the rank through an engineering field. If you are in KPMG, they also need engineers to make sure that the systems are running. Do you think an engineer is the highest paid person in KPMG? It will be an accountant. So when you are to the core of the industry that you are, you'll get paid more. Every industry that you choose will have an HR function, will have a finance function, will have an operations function. But once you have found out your passion, stick to the industry for which that particular function is the core of what they do. That will pay you highest. Everybody clear so far? Yeah? So now you understand how salaries are paid to fresh MBAs. By the way, one more point I wanted to make. From the company's point of view, and this is again going back to the modern portfolio theory. From company's point of view, you're all equal. If I select you for PNG and him also for PNG, do you think I will pay you different salaries? No, because for me you are like stocks. I don't see any difference. There might be delta here and there because of your experience or whatever, and that depends on your negotiation skills. How much can you convince me? But it is not going to be significant. From a see, you are selecting a company, they are also selecting you. Although you might believe it's the other way around only. You're also selecting the company. You have all the rights to reject them. It's like a lock fitting in a key. If it doesn't fit, doesn't fit. The sooner you realize that, the better. Because the later you realize that, the more friction. You'll end up burning yourself, scratching yourself in that lock that you don't fit in. So companies also look at you as stocks, as assets. That's from the company point of view. So we've covered three things. We have covered modern portfolio theory. We have covered Sharpe ratio. We have covered default probability. By the way, default probability is a probability of something defaulting, something failing. Did you guys ever think of what you learned in finance in these terms? What it means for practical life? What does it mean to me? Did you think it in those terms? Some of you did? Okay, whether you did or not, the point I'm trying to make is start thinking. Start thinking that if I'm learning this, where can I apply? Because schools and universities can make you literate, but they can't educate you. Education is what you make out of it. Nobody can educate you. Only you can educate yourself. Education comes through life experiences, through your analysis, through your takeaways. I can teach you that. I mean, some of you said you haven't learned modern portfolio theory. I can teach you that. I can guarantee you, each one of you will take different things from it. Because it's what you take out of it. So now that you know what maximizes your salary, you know how to solve for that constraint. How many of you are going to use that to actually maximize your salary? You will. Okay. How many of you will use that to maximize your salary? How many of you will not use that to maximize your salary? How many of you don't understand what I said? Okay, my question is, how many of you will not use that to maximize your salary? You have an answer? No. Okay. How many of you will not use the 3 principles I just taught to not maximize your salary? How many of you will use it? Can we have a show of hands? Okay. I don't know what you're thinking, but all of you are wrong. You should not be using that to maximize your salary. You know what I just told you? I gave you a cheat sheet for the exam, where your only goal is to get A grade, but you don't care about the learning. This is coaching methodology. That's what coachings do, right? They coach you for the exam that you are preparing for. So I just coached you into cracking the paper. The paper being my salary. What I can also tell you is that you should not be doing that. The reason why I told you that is because it's important for you to think in those words, in those frameworks. But you should not be maximizing it. Because if you're trying to maximize your salary, you will end up probably choosing an industry that you don't want to be in, taking a job that's sinking, and going for a risk which is more than you can gut for. You have something to say? Okay, sure. I'll get you a microphone. Here.
So why
I'll get you a microphone.
So why I raised my hand was because what I extracted out of it was, don't go for huge salaries. It like on the sinking ship, when you are paid high when sinking. That what I extracted. That's why I raised my hand. That's how I will use it. That's my prospect to what you.
Very good. Can we have a round of applause, because he understood how not to use it, which is as important. Yeah, that's what you're trying to say, right?
Yes, sir.
Because, see, a knife in itself is not good or bad, like that knife. It's how you use it. I could use it to kill somebody, or I could use it for surgery, right?
Yes, sir.
So, that knowledge that we gave you, there is vidya and avidya.
So it's an individual prospect how you take it.
It's how you take it. So what I'm going to tell you is that you should not be using this to maximize salary. You should know this though, right? It's important for you to know what is harmful for you. Cigarette packets say that, no? Some of you smoke. So when you read whatever is written, I'm not sure in India, do they have like horrendous pictures as well?
Yes.
They do, okay. So when you're fully aware, right, when you have a risk disclaimer, then you know what you're going for. So it's important to know this, so that you can make informed choices. Then you know what you are going for, as long as you are at peace with yourself. It's your choice. There is a cigarette, it's your choice. Cancer may happen to you, 30 years down the line, who cares? It's your choice. So what I told you lets you make informed decisions. But anyways, let's move forward. The C over there is careers. Now, what happens is when you are in your 20s or 30s, you're very busy embellishing your resume. All of you do that? Write fancy lines in your resume. Together save more money than the GDP of India. Generate more revenue than the entire turnover of many companies. So we are very busy embellishing our resumes, milestone after milestone. Assistant manager, manager, regional manager, CEO. These milestones we set for ourselves. Sometimes it's important to have a rear view mirror view of yourself. What that means in life is, all of you imagine, if this were the last day of your life, it can happen. There could be an earthquake here while we are speaking. This is an earthquake prone zone. What is it that you will be remembered for? Would they talk about your GPA? Would they talk about your salary that you made? Would they talk about topper that you were in your school? Do you think that's what people will talk about you? What do you think people will talk about you if you were to drop dead today? Yes. People remember you as a person, not as a set of numbers. How many lives you have touched? How many people you have influenced? You guys are listening to me, I'm assuming. Probably not because I have a fancy degree behind me or a resume which is full of fancy things. It's probably because what I'm saying is making some sense to you. In life, what matters is how many lives you're touching. What difference? You said you wanted to educate people. They will remember you for that. You said you wanted to take photographs. Yeah, they'll remember you for that. It's important in life to understand what you want to be remembered for. Because if you don't have that clarity, you'll start chasing things that you don't know why you're chasing. That's true for you, that's true for me, that's also true for your professors. We run into issues, we run into relationship problems, we run into health problems, we run into job problems. Because the road to success is not easy. It's hard. It's winding, steep. But is it the journey that you want to traverse? And that clarity you will only know if you think in those terms. If I were to drop dead today, what do I want to be remembered for? It's important. Because that is your purpose. Your purpose is not to get a 20 lakh package. Your purpose is not to get a job in Coke. Purpose is bigger. And very often you realize what your purpose is when you're on the deathbed. But it's too late. Yeah? So why is that important? CV versus eulogy. What is a eulogy? Can somebody raise your hand and explain me what eulogy is? Any English majors here? Undergrad English? Or whoever knows the meaning? Undergrad English? Somebody's pointing towards you. These are your friends or enemies? Okay, what do you know about it? I'll get you a microphone. You should choose wisely who you sit next to next time.
I'm not an English graduate, but I think eulogy is something that is kind of a speech that your loved ones give after you die.
Exactly. What's an obituary? That's a more often used term in India, right? What's an obituary?
Is the announcement of your death in the newspaper or media.
Okay. Does anybody know about Alfred Nobel and his obituary? That story?
Alfred Nobel.
Who is Alfred Nobel, by the way?
he was the one who invented dynamics, and he was
Stand up. You know the story.
he was the person who invented dynamics. Actually, he was
That is what you remember him for?
no, but he was actually didn't want to be remembered for the guy who was invented dynamite. So he introduced the Nobel Prize scheme, and there's a laureates who a set of laureates who review different kind of fields, and they give prizes to the best who have discovered something for mankind who is very valuable.
Exactly. Round of applause for that. So what that also tells you is that very often you know more than you want to share. So I don't know if you're a friend or enemy, but thank you so much for pointing towards him. So yeah. So what happened is Alfred Nobel had a brother. His brother died. A lot of people believe it's Alfred Nobel who died, because obviously he was the more famous one. And one of the newspapers wrote this: "The merchant of death is dead." How many of you would like to be remembered like that after your death? The merchant of death is dead. Why they said that is because this guy invented dynamite, which was responsible for death of a lot of people. So when he read that in the newspaper, he decided for himself that he wants to be remembered for something better than that. With that determination, he set up the Nobel Prize Fund. That's why I said it's important to know where you're going. And a lot of time that clarity comes when you look your life in the rear view mirror. Otherwise you will keep inventing dynamites for yourself, for your family, for your job, without even realizing that you are stepping on one. So think about it. What is it that you want to be remembered for? It's very important. That's the C part or CA part of that cash. Usually I would begin from there, but because it's an MBA school, I begin with salary. Somehow that's more juicy part of it. For some of you, that's probably the only takeaway. I hope it's not, but oftentimes it happens. Happiness, my favorite topic. Yes. Yeah, sure. By the way, I noticed that you guys are very participative, and I really like participative audience. So you are actually much more participative than the audience I had in IIM Bangalore. So clap for yourself.
So isn't it contradictory that on one side we say that we don't care what people think of us, and on the other side we want that we want to be remembered for good? No Rahul sir and no Saptarshi will live this life again. So is it not important to analyze ourselves that what is good for us and what should we do good, what can we do good for this society? So isn't it that we should do the best we can, and rest I will not have my brain after my death, so I don't care what these people think. They will choose according to their perception. No, that's not my business, sir. So isn't it contradictory?
You're right, it's not contradictory. What happens is that you actually got the essence of my talk, and I'm yet to come to those slides. What happens is, when you have clarity of what you want to be remembered for, that's your own perception of what you want to be. Right? As you said, people will have filters, they will view it from their own filter. But you would have certain ambitions, right? This is what I want to do. This gentleman probably wants to set up a school which does good for others. That's your journey. So what happens is, when you set up those goals for yourself, see, again I'll come to it. The only thing you have control over is your karma, right? Your actions and your thoughts. The results are not in your control at all, right? So what you will end up being remembered for is a function of many other things, many of which are not in your control. You want to set up a school. The government decides, okay, from tomorrow, no more new schools in UP because we have sufficient. Or we will only enhance the existing schools. What happens to his dreams? Or he decides to set up an English medium school. The government decides Hindi Mathribhasha hai. A number of things can happen, right? You're not the only contributing factor. But what that does to you is, you know where you are headed. Everything that we're doing here is for you. You need to understand. You don't need to convince your neighbor, as long as you are convinced. Does it answer you? Okay, so happiness, and this is my favorite topic. So I've written an equation there. Happiness is equal to attainment minus desire. I have a more complicated version of that with differential calculus, but skip that. This is an instantaneous equation. That means it's at one point in time. It's not integrated over time. Those who have taken maths, they probably understand what I'm talking about. So what does that mean? Can somebody explain? Because in my opinion, mathematics is the most universal language that the mankind has invented. You show this to somebody in France or in Ethiopia, probably they will understand the same thing. But I need to test that, whether my hypothesis is true. So one of you please help me explain what you understand of that. Not you, sir, you have spoken too much. Can anybody else explain me what that is? You can explain? Okay, you have not spoken yet, right? Have you spoken yet? Okay, then explain me what that equation means.
I think so. Happiness comes from within. So happiness, it's attainment minus desire. You say equation. So what I think, sir, the opposite of happiness is sadness, sir. And why we get sadness? That some say that people hurt you. So people don't hurt you. So what I think that our expectation from that people hurt us. So your desire, that minus is that was why I replied that. Expectation from other people is desire, and attainment, sir. What I think attainment is happiness. What you think that what you have and you understood or you not compromise. This word क्या कि आप उसे
हिंदी में बोल दीजिए आप.
थैंक यू. सो आप अपने आप में वो मान लेते हो सेटिस्फाई कि हाँ जो है सो हाँ मेरे लिए सही है, और आप लोगों से एक्सपेक्टेशन फिर हटा देते हो और अपने आप में खुश रहना, मतलब अपने आप को मान लेते हो कि हाँ मैं जो हूँ सही हूँ, तब आप में हैप्पीनेस आती है.
You understood that? Round of applause for it. I'll explain that. So what that explains is there is desire. Right? We all desire something. Maybe you desire a GPA of 9, or you desire a salary of 20 lakh rupees. What will happen if you don't get it? What happens if you get 18 lakhs? What will happen? Will you be happy? How many of you think that if you wanted... Let me give you some other example which might be more relatable. You want to get 90% in your exam, you only got 85. Will you be happy? Will you be happy? How many of you will be happy with that? How many of your parents will be happy with that to begin with? You'll be happy?
My parents will be happy. ये इतना ही लिया है बहुत.
Okay, very commendable parents, I would say. We would all want to have parents like yours. So if you wanted to get 90%, you let's say only got 80. Would you be happy? That's a problem. Because you have fixed a destination first. 80%. And then you start working backwards. 90%. That 90% becomes your goal. And then you don't enjoy the journey to begin with. Learning is not important, that 90 is important. That 20 lakh a job package is important. How I get there is not important. Yeah, I mean there are a number of ways of reaching there. So that's the problem. When you fix your desires, what you attain is not in your control, as we just discussed. You can try hardest you want. The day you have interview, maybe your car had a puncture, you couldn't reach on time, gone. No more that 20 lakh job that was on day 0. In your exam, things can happen. Examiner had a quarrel with his wife or her husband, marking your English paper, gone. Can't be board topper anymore. Too bad. Results are not in your control. Only thing you can control is your efforts. That is why for MBAs, it's important to choose a job that you like, such that you can drag yourself to office on Monday morning. It's not easy. The longer you drag yourself for a Monday morning in a job that you don't want, the shorter you will live. That's proven. We fail to do these calculations. So essentially what I'm telling you is, at any given point in time, if you attain more than you desire, if you wanted to get only 80% and you got 90%, we're all humans. We'll feel delighted. If you came here with the expectation of 15 lakh and you got a job which paid you 25 lakhs, you will be happy, but natural. But don't fix that 85 or 25 lakh in the very beginning. Because the moment you fix that, you're already fixing yourself for unhappiness. Because it may or may not happen. You know, when cricket players go into the game, they say every game is a new game for me. Why do they say that? Because it is actually that. It is a new game. If you come with your baggage, main Sachin Tendulkar, doesn't work. You are only as good as the last ball. And life throws you balls after balls after balls. Here you have a syllabus. In life you don't have a syllabus. There is no end-term exam. In fact, life is like a pop-up quiz. Unannounced actually. With no syllabus. In that uncertainty, you are fixing up goals. 2 साल में यहाँ से पास हो जाऊंगा, इतना का पैकेज लग जाएगा, फिर 4 साल में प्रमोशन हो जाएगा, फिर ये हो जाएगा, फिर शादी कर लूंगा, फिर ये नहीं होता यार. Life is complicated. A lot of things can happen. So that's why, moving on in the same thought, should you be result driven or effort driven? Sure. Will you say that in an interview? I am effort driven. Will you say that? What will you say? If I were interviewing you, if you told me you're result driven, I'll not take you. Honestly. But I've heard that a lot. I've seen that on resumes. I'm a result oriented person. I don't like result oriented person. Because A, these people have a misconception of their own abilities to influence results. B, they come with a lot of arrogance. Both are not needed. If you or any one of you has that result-oriented person on your resume or in your bio, please take it off. Unless you can justify that in an interview. Great. You need to be effort-driven. I'm reiterating this. Only thing you can control is your efforts. You can't control results. Literally, you can't. You might have experienced that in so many exams that you've written in this campus. Were you able to control the paper that came? What could you control? What could you control? You could only control how much you've studied for it, your preparedness. You can't control what paper the examiner says. You need to be prepared. I mean, just because you can't control the result doesn't mean you don't put in the effort. Put in that effort, forget about the result. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Now, you had asked that question, so I'll move on. Again, the same thing. Whose car are you driving? Is it your passion? Who is fueling that car? Is it your passion that's fueling that car, or is it your neighbor's passion, your parents' passion, your institute's passion, your girlfriend's passion, your boyfriend's passion? Who is fueling that car? Whose car are you driving? So many of you said you want to have a career in marketing. Why? Do you have a why? Or it's just something that was told to you? MBA karna, marketing na achhi job lag jayegi. That is not the purpose. You will run out of energy very soon. You need to identify with the purpose. We have talked about this. Schools and universities make you literate. Education is what you make out of it. Only you can educate educate yourself. No university, no school in the world can educate you.